Aditya Pratap, again, and I'm saying this debate is very complex, but one question that everybody would ask, how less is less? And how more is more, it's a very cultural question. And even if we stick to Indian culture, there's a huge divide even within the youngsters, as it were. But even if we don't take that into account, look at what the student has just said. It isn't a question of regimentation, but because if it was regimentation, ask students to wear a uniform. But if it is about a dress code, how does one not allow students to wear t-shirts and jeans? And the circular says ripped jeans, but the student is saying jeans.
Well, see, to begin with, I myself studied in 5 years at the National Academy of Legal Studies and Research, Nalsar, Hyderabad. In my college also, even though there was no uniform prescribed as such, still a certain code of attire was prescribed. So clearly wearing ripped jeans and other things, the college, in my opinion, has the power to ban clothes which do not conform to certain guidelines. Now, to begin with, we have these two colleges which were before the Bombay High Court. Bombay High Court passed the order upholding the ban on hijab. Agreed. What is the dominant purpose of an educational institution? The dominant purpose of an educational institution is to serve as a place for education. And therefore, if in the opinion of the common management and of the college management, as well as going by the standards of a reasonable person of ordinary prudence, if certain dress codes and styles do not conform to the aura and atmosphere of an educational institution, certainly the college has its power to ban them. Plus, we have the Maharashtra Public Universities Act, which now governs virtually all the education institutions in Maharashtra. Under this act also, the college can pass guidelines to regulate either to impose a uniform or to regulate the dress code. Clearly, because the ambit of the college is quite vast when it comes to issuing regulations. Secondly, I would also like to apply the dominant purpose test. For instance, if it's a temple, in a temple, certainly certain dresses might not be allowed in a temple. Certain dresses might not be allowed in a mosque. Likewise, if it's a college where the dominant purpose is education, the college management is well within its rights to prescribe a code of dress which the students would follow. Otherwise, as they say, when we talk about
you, ask me how against a code of dress if it were.
It would appeal to the prurient interest, which the Supreme Court has held in a catena of judgments. Prurient interest. If we bring in the issue of obscenity, if certain dresses are obscene.
Okay, Talishre. Now, again, these questions, these statements itself are very, very difficult to explain because some may say, an Indian attire may not be designed appropriately and it may actually pass the test of the circular because you may be wearing a churidar or you may be wearing a kurta pajama for a man. It's not only a woman we're discussing men and women both, but it may be quite obnoxious or obscene. Again, who decides this? How does it define? Is there a way to communicate this to young, bright minds and this is a general college. This is not a college that is training to get into the army or into the law or anyway. It's a general college. Children may go tomorrow into fashion industry. They may go into they may be top lawyers tomorrow. Who knows whatsoever? Is there a better way to communicate this to students than have blanket circulars which frankly may just fail the test of interpretation absolutely?
I think I would like to come in from a very different perspective, not from the test of the prudent person or from any other such legal test that has been laid out. This is a college that is there. There are stakeholders in a college. The management is a stakeholder in the education system as much as the students are stakeholders. And while there is a broadly defined criteria for discipline, to be able to look at things like dress code, it's literally like putting a cross in terms of that tomorrow if you had Mark Zuckerberg visit this college, then the college would not allow him because he ostensibly wears only X, Y, Z clothes and some of them have come under a restriction. The second is the capability of an educational institution. Sure, educational institutions within various laws, within judgments that are there, all of them have the capability to draw that out. But where is the wisdom then with the educationists to see whether their stakeholders are being allowed? Because the purpose of education is to allow young people to explore and to be able to decide for themselves. And therefore, I go back and revert back to my original point. The idea behind the education is that they can discern. And while there might be certain guidelines that would be there, I don't think it's fair to compare it to a law college, because eventually when people go to a law college, they know they're going to be lawyers, and therefore the dress code under the Advocates Act is applicable. Similarly, if one is to go to, say, suppose a police service or a military service, then it is known that there is a uniform that would be put in. But in this case, there is a college that has come in, and it's a college that needs to reflect. It needs to reflect whether its stakeholders, is it making sense? Is this kind of an embargo making sense to the students that are there, looking at what Mumbai is, and do they really want to look, come up for, not for their academic excellence, not for what their students have done, but to be in news for the fact that they are effectively trying to dictate how young people may express themselves through code, through a dress code, or the lack of it thereof.
Let me just take the last question to Aditya. Aditya, there's a way to enforce and there is a way to inspire. If at all this education institute wanted to create a sense of a dress code, whatever, is there a more appropriate way of inspiring action with guidelines than enforcing it and ensuring children are waiting outside and not being able to attend their attendance? This sounds very petty, sorry. I mean, I'm not saying don't have a dress code, sure. But you have to inculcate an environment where people are inspired to follow that, reason it out with students, speak to them. I'm sure students are rational, they'll understand, create an environment where it needs to be imbibed, if at all it does need to be. But what is this enforcing, thrusting diktats here and not allowing students to attend lectures? Would you agree to that?
Well, see, university education comes in two forms, to encourage as well as to deter. The object of the law is to be essentially a deterrent. Now, of course, the purpose of the college is to train the students in gaining skills, gaining knowledge, gaining ability, and improve their prospects for the real world or the job market or whatever it is. But at the same time, the college is well aware that education has to take place in a disciplined environment. Today, indiscipline at colleges manifests itself in numerous forms. Talking in the class, bunking classes, not paying attention. Fine. You don't like the course, don't join the college. But when you join the college, you had better pay attention.
All right.
I agree that it has to be a two-way process. But when the college prescribes rules, what is the purpose of prescribing a dress code so that the atmosphere does not get undermined? It's a serious and pious atmosphere.
Okay, Aditya Pratap and Aditya. All right. Okay. Aditya Pratap as well as Mr. Lish, thank you very much for joining us. I leave you with one quote that has always been my favorite. It has inspired me greatly. In this world, there is no place for fear. Only strength respects strength. None other than Abdul Kalam. I guess that's a good way for education institutions to be really looking at that. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining.